Welcome to the It's Better Together podcast, where intelligent conversations turn dreams into action, with hosts Marcy Stoudt and Allison Nissen. Each episode highlights inspirational women and practical business advice from the Revel Coach Tuesday at 2 live programs. From building a website to securing more clients, we cover topics that are interesting to you. This week, we recap a conversation we had with Jen Williamson of the Unshakeable Family series. For more information about Jen, visit her at her website, jenwilliamson.com.
Is inspirational. So the Unshakable Family was, I'm a businesswoman, I'm an entrepreneur, and for almost 2 decades, I've been learning leadership and business. And my marriage was struggling. And as I was listening to these leadership books and business books, I was converting everything into my family, how I could apply this leadership into my family, these business models into my family. And it made sense to me. And so my first show was actually the Thriving Entrepreneur Show, how to have an unstoppable advantage in business and in life. And then when I got feedback, everybody's like, no, we want more of the family part of it. So it's really teaching people how to truly lead their families. And Zac and Zoe see how much this work has changed our family's life. So when I proposed it to them, it was actually recommended by a dear friend of mine. And when I proposed it to them, they didn't even hesitate. They were instantly enrolled, and we've been going ever since. And the beauty is I never have to remind them or ask them. Like, they are so driven with doing this, and we really all do come together because it's for the greater good, just to bless other families.
Well, it's so wonderful that you all pulled it off together, because what we had seen from the outside looking in was a very well-organized online series that had these awesome interviews, and it was so curated to the point that the interviews were consistent, the technology was great, but you pulled it off pretty quick, right? Wasn't the idea of kind of COVID, and then you just all of a sudden you pulled out this program?
Yeah, it was. I mean, the kids came home from college. They weren't supposed to be home, and COVID hit, and we instantly, really quickly had the conversation, we can get bitter or better during this time. And we just all made the commitment that we are going to intentionally communicate really well. We're going to live in synergy and cooperation. And I was going to be doing the summit anyway, and was going to be hiring a virtual assistant. And, I proposed it to them, and Zac, who leans more techie, and Zoe, who is an artist, the two of them just each instantly sat in their own seat. And off we went. My husband writes the copy, and he does the business side of it, and I do the content. And right now I'm actually launching in September my group coaching program for the Unshakable Family. It's called Be Unshakable, because if we want to have an unshakable family, we get to learn the habits, the skills, the mindset, and the communication to be unshakable ourselves.
There's something important about what you have done to create this Unshakable Family. Can you tell us about the business books that you have used in order to create this solid foundation for your family?
Yeah. So the irony is, I do have a beautiful marriage, and I have a blessed family. And the irony is, I've never read a parenting book or a marriage book. I just read business books. And again, that's what I was drawn to. And I just was so thirsty for them, because I would always find these amazing nuggets. So John Maxwell, I was a huge fan of his, and still am. And he writes, sometimes you win, sometimes you learn. And wow, that's powerful, And one of the things that I really pull from that is, life doesn't happen to us, it happens for us. So if we look and we take level 4 responsibility for everything that happens in our marriage, and we stop pointing the fingers. Mm-hmm. My kid did this, my husband did this. And, my pastor said, we need more thumbs than fingers. And I love that. And how could I do better? How could I communicate better? How could I be more effective? What should I learn about or listen to? And it's powerful. So that's a favorite. Also, I study leadership under Michael Strassner. His book, Mastering Leadership, is amazing. And I convert what he talks about with vision into family vision and core values. My mind just converts it all to family. And these are some of the greatest leaders in the world. So I feel as though I'm able to educate and coach at such a different level, because it's not just the parenting, it's not just the marriage, it's true leadership. Being a great spouse, being a great parent is leadership. It's leadership.
You know, and Jen, can you share with us some stories? Because I know you all have this beautiful family that's working so well together and has so many joyful moments.
Yeah.
And at the same time, you've shared with us before that it's always work in progress. It's something you're always investing in. So can you share maybe some personal stories, how you've used these strategies with your family?
Absolutely. I would love to. So a little bit of history. My husband and I both have PTSD. We have different forms of it. And I really created this course that I'm going to be, this group coaching, to be Unshakable, save my marriage. And that's why I got into all of this learning. And so much of it is in this space between, as Viktor Frankl will say, between stimulus and response. So many marriages fail. So many relationships with parents and kids are just really broken and ruined because when somebody's triggered, the way they respond. That's it. Mm-hmm. So if we break things down, the big problems, into the smallest form, it's really only 120 seconds that we need to hack. Right? So just like, how easy is that? So it may mean somebody learning how to diffuse their trigger rather than adding fuel to it with their words, and then creating, now the other person is adding fuel with their words and they're triggered, and it becomes this contagious fire that's out of control. Or we can learn how to notice it and quickly diffuse it. And that's really been the secret sauce in our life. And, the drift is real. Unless we stay very, very intentional about it, we can slip into old habits.
Mm-hmm. And I've also remember you had, in order to be intentional, you have family contracts, which I think is a powerful way of just level setting what your contracts look like. Mm-hmm. Can you share a little bit more about that?
Absolutely. So when I coach, I actually call them mantra. So I'm a loving, powerful, connected leader. So that's my home. That is like everything that I do, everything that I say, I just want that to exude out of me. I'm a loving, powerful, connected leader. And then I said to my husband has his own, and we got that through the wonderful, wonderful training that we did through Hardcore Leadership with Michael Strasner. And amazing program. My kids are actually about to start it next week. Tomorrow. And so then I said, that works so well because I can always ground and come back home to that. That's who Jen Williamson is, minus all the ways of the world and the stuff. So I said, why don't we do that for our marriage? So we did that. And we have a loving, kind, and patient marriage. And together we came up with the words, together we came up with the order, and like really just where we were in a space with synergy. Mm-hmm. So if we're having a tiff, we can just ground in our individual contracts, and I'll just go up to him and be like, I'm a loving, powerful, connected leader. Mm-hmm. And that will lead him. He will share his. And then we go into the marriage one. And then it was so effective that we created a family one. And we're a family 4. So we decided to each have a word. And then we all had to agree on the word. That was the key. Like we all had to agree. So maybe it started out as happy and we massaged it and it turned into joyful. So we are a loving, godly, resilient, joyful family. And anytime there's any inflammation, we can, boom, go right back to that and reset. And it's powerful.
That is powerful. That is powerful. I was perusing your website and noticed that you have listed on there your own values, your own core values, mm-hmm. Yeah. Which I think many people don't do. They don't take the time to think about what they really mean. And so what does that mean for you? And what does the act of doing that mean for you?
So great question. So I'd like to actually back up from that a little bit. So one of the things that we really focus on, and this is something that Michael Strassner talks about, and we, again, business leadership, I bring it into family. How can we be more and do less? Like be more, like be. So the first thing that we all do is we anchor in our being. So we commit to a way that we're going to be for the day. So today I'm being loving and connected. That's the essence of what I am. And then on top of that, our core values, and we also have a family mission statement, and like everything just gets to be in alignment with that. It's like going on a road trip. You really want to make sure that you have all the tools. You want to make sure that you have the destination and that you're really set up for success. You're not just kind of like wandering in the car and you realize you don't have gas and, you left half your family at home, and, it's about being intentional. And it's life-changing. It really is. And, we get to then live in flow, and just life becomes very simple then.
I think that's such a beautiful way of saying it. And talk about diffusing a situation. So when you feel, it's going to happen, there's going to be moments where, day-to-day life has a moment of stress or hurry or anything like that. And then as soon as it starts building, being able to say your mission statement, your personal statement, your mantra, you could just, with humor, diffuse it, or with seriousness, it's like, you're not seeing me. And I could just see how that could quickly take it down.
It does. And one of the, something that we're really committed to is called 7-11 breathing. And you breathe in for 7 seconds and then out for 11. And if you do that like 7 times, you're really resetting your entire central nervous system. And then what happens is our prefrontal cortex is so logical, so smart, that it would never say the things that you would say when you're triggered, or do the things you would do when you're triggered, right? Think of, like, logically, would you ever have road rage? Well, people have road rage all the time. It's because the reptilian part of the brain, their survival part, their limbic part of the brain is activated, and it's in survival. And when we're in that mode, the quicker we can recognize that we're in that mode, the quicker we can and connect with our body. Mm-hmm. And like one of the techniques that we do is like, where in your body is it? Like, is it in your stomach? Is it in your, like a weight on your chest? Is it in the back of your throat? Just connecting with you really will anchor you, first of all. Like just taking note of your body. And then from there, that's when you can have the awareness, go into 7-11 breathing, and then you can go into your contract. You're reset. You're reset. The only thing that I want to point out, that even though now you're brought down, it's still almost a fragile time. Mm-hmm. So for example, my daughter had a conversation with Willy on Saturday after he was triggered about something. And she was having a clearing conversation about her experience that she wanted to share with him, just to clearing conversations are good. They clear the space. So, you can be at a level 10, but it was too close to the trigger. It was too close. So the next morning we were like, what could we have done better? Clearing conversations are wonderful and they're so important, but not close to the trigger.
All right, so this is a little off the wall question, but I'm a crier. I'm just going to throw it out there. Right. I'm a crier, and it happens way too often, and I'm way too old for it to be happening. I feel like I'm 2 years old sometimes. So let's just say that's where, in my body, that's where if something happens, that's where it goes. It's like the back of my head. So if you're in a public place, not in that intimate family space, and I actually don't cry with my family, but in that public space, how do you actually get to that point where I'm like, okay, I need to go back out for a second and do my 7-11 breathing. I come back in a minute and a half. When you actually can't do that, like you can't leave the room, you can't leave the space. And you need to focus and pay attention because someone's telling you something. So at that moment, what advice do you have for me?
Well, that's a really great question. First of all, you can distract yourself. You can pinch your leg. You like just bringing yourself back to your body is almost a distraction. You can pinch your wrist. You can have something that you go to. Like I have a really tender spot right here on my hand, between my forefinger and my thumb. And you can just like pretend visually that that's a reset for you.
Oh.
And then and then you can do 7-11 breathing. It's just breathing in and counting to 7 and breathing out. Like you can do it. Like I will sometimes witness my husband doing, well, there will be no words, but I will witness it. And I won't even bring it up, just because I do want to give him that space. But the other thing is like crying is good. Like we get to feel, like that's the thing. So many women and men don't give themselves permission to feel. Like we feel like we got to bottle it all in and hide our emotions. I cried with you yesterday. I cried with you, and that's beautiful. And when you cry with somebody, the connection that you have with them is beautiful. I mean, in my leadership group, there was a girl, I'm crying talking about her. There was a girl who shared her story from childhood. That's something I wish I could unhear. I've never repeated it. And literally, she was in my group, and every single time she would talk, I would cry. Like I cried even talking about her. And I let her know. I said, I care so much about you. Your story just really moved me. And the connection that we had because of that, and will for the rest of our lives. So I think you get to give yourself permission to cry because it's beautiful.
I have learned that it's okay in public to cry. Sometimes I have to admit it's a little inappropriate. Like, if you're getting a speeding ticket, for example, not the best time to cry.
or is it because it can get you out of speeding tickets?
Well, that too.
I've never gotten a speeding ticket. I'm 50 years old. I've never gotten a speeding ticket.
That happened a really long time ago, like 20 years ago. But nonetheless, so I know that you have mentored young women, and how did you get involved with that?
So I mentored one, and I was really torn if I should mentor again. Some of my best friends started an amazing nonprofit here locally in Virginia Beach. It's called We Are VB. And it's incredible. And what they do is they assign mentors to a senior to just make sure that they graduate. And I was really torn. Should I do it again? Because I just loved my girl so much. And she is a younger sister and, got really close with the family. And I said to my friend, I said, I just feel like I get to stay with them. And I also knew that I was launching my group coaching program where I'm here to serve. And as an investor, how do I get to really distribute my best asset, which I'm very aware is my time. So, it was life-changing. And I'll tell you something that was really life-changing was, we didn't even touch on this yet, but I joined the Navy at 18. I know that you two know that. And I had two mentors. I was in a rating with almost all men. And one of them was my boyfriend, who was a little bit older and a squared away sailor. That's where I learned leadership, from him and a man named Dave Edwards, his best friend. And they both happen to live in Virginia Beach. Jean asked me out for my 19th birthday in California. And socially, I see Dave, the best friend, and I mentioned to him about We Are VB, and didn't think anything of it. And I would mentor my sweet girl at a different time because she was in a welding program. And at the end of the year, the people who run the program threw a get together. Thank you. And there was Dave. See, you're not the one who cries. There was Dave. He mentored all year, and he was one of my mentors. And there was another person in the group who had like launched her girl into joining the army. And I just know how life-changing the military was for myself and for my husband, and what a blessing. And it was almost like, I think God had a sense of humor. And then I will take it one step further. When I was flying to California for leadership through Hardcore Leadership, Gene was on my plane. And it was the first time after 26 years him and my husband met.
Oh, wow.
So no coincidences. Again, I always think that God has a strong sense of humor. And yeah, just another wink, a God wink.
Yeah, it's serendipitous.
Yeah, yep.
So Jen, I'd love to ask the question about, so in the terms of mentorship, or if you were your own client, like what advice would you give to who you were when you were a senior in high school?
Oh gosh, I was such a hot mess. I was such a hot mess. The one thing that changed my entire life that I learned through the Navy was habits, because we are the sum of our habits, like the sum of them. So look at your habits, and this is what I coach in the Unshakable. It's one of the modules is really look at your habits, because like our whole life, everything is tied to them. So there's a magical time in the morning where you get momentum. Mm-hmm. So when we want to be proactive with our life, not reactive, we get momentum first thing in the morning. So I'd say creating a morning routine that works for you. I've done every morning routine book. None of them has ever landed. I get to stack it on what I do anyway, and layer and layer and layer onto my keystone habits. And I'm always changing, always adding. So I'd say really dial in your habits, dial them in. It's changed my life. And then to take it one step further, our habits are in alignment with our beliefs. And we may not realize some of these beliefs. And by looking at your habits, you may say, oh my gosh, like you hear about people who win the lottery and then they go broke again. Their habits are in alignment subconsciously with a belief. So.
Yeah, and we have a question from the chat box, which is similar to what I was thinking as well. If you have a client that has maybe hidden habits, like habits they don't recognize, but the chat box, I'll kind of blend them together, is asking about contract. You talked about contracts and habits as a part of the coaching program. Are there other components to the coaching process? So talk to us about how you work with clients and.
Yeah. So there's two different, there's one-on-one coaching with me. There's also On the Go with Jen. The On the Go is really neat. We use an app called Voxer. It's kind of like a walkie-talkie. And for people who are committed to the work but maybe don't have the finances, they do the On the Go coaching with Jen. And that's really powerful because every day I'm in their ear. Like every day they're checking in, and every day they get coaching. And it's really having that consistency that's been really powerful. And I can't serve 100 people that way. I mean, I wouldn't be able to eat, and it does take time, and it takes a lot of, I'm very connected to my coaching clients. And that's why, to serve more people, I'm going to be doing the group coaching, which launches in September. So I don't know if I went off base from the question.
Well, no, you didn't. You answered it, the one question in the chat box, perfectly. And then my question also, if you have a client and you're working with them, I'd say one-on-one, and they have some habits, but they just don't acknowledge them. They're not that obvious to them, but they find themselves getting to the same situation. Are there any exercises you do to help them dig deeper?
Yeah, such a good question. So we go through all of the areas of their life, every single one of them, and systematically pick the area that they want to level up. And the way to get out of overwhelm is to make little bite-sized chunks. So we actually make it super, super, super easy. And remember what I said about a body in motion stays in motion? and how you do anything is how you do everything. We tie so much into what they do literally the moment they open their eyes in the morning. Like literally, that's when they start. What we do is we build what's called a very healthy emotional immune system. When you make deposits into being a proactive person and you start your body in motion, being proactive, you're more likely to stay that way. So when I say building a strong emotional immune system, that's really the fundamental core of it. And we do that through our morning routine, our habits, our communication, and our mindset. So we go through all of those very systematically and in a very intentional order to open things up. So it's powerful. It's so life-changing. As a matter of fact, I had a one-on-one client. She fired me after a month. She's like, it changed my whole life. I'm like, no, we're a third of the way through the program. And so fortunately, I took a big stand for her, and just like, it's been so incredible. And I just really believe in this work so much because it's changed my life. I wrote this program for my family. I've been in this work, studying it for almost 2 decades, and it works. And that's why Zac and Zoe were just so on board, and Willy, all of us, so on board. We're not perfect. Oh my gosh, we're not perfect. We get triggers, we have breakdowns, but we get to have them differently. We get to have them like, this is for us, not to us. What do we get to learn? And that's powerful when you sit in that seat.
And do you have any coaching tools that you use to help decipher these levels?
What level? I'm sorry. What?
Like how to decipher your clients' problems, their triggers, their habits.
Yeah. Oh yeah. So we go through them. There's we do the Wheel of Life. That's a great exercise where we get to find out where they are. They self-evaluate, and then we pick one area and we just start to move the needle systematically, and, I love the saying, I don't know if I already said this today, but the tide that raises all ships. So what people find is, wow, I'm working on my family and I lost 15 pounds, right? So it's really, it's amazing how we'll pick one, but then the other ones get up-leveled as well. And they really understand the power of, they own their habits. Like so what we're maybe talking about with marriage or business, they're going to apply it to all areas of their life. And that's really beautiful when they start to take the tools that I teach them, and they become a self-cleaning oven, and they teach it to their spouse, and they teach it to their kids. And it's a ripple effect that we get to have, not only for our children and our families, but for their children and their children's children. Like, we get to be change agents, and it just, I don't know, I love it.
It's intentional teaching. It's spending time with your family and getting more purposeful about it, that they embrace it, and then they're inspired to share it with others.
Yeah. And it's really neat because Zac and Zoe are 21. Zoe is a certified life coach working with high schoolers, and she is working on her master life coach certification, and just the ripple effect that she gets to have in the youth. And it's just powerful. It's like, our world needs us, like people like us, Marcy and Allison. Like, the world needs us right now more than ever. And it's a giant reset, and we can always find the gift in the garbage if we look for it.
So true. Well, we are right now at the 2:30 mark, or 1:30 here.
To watch a live Tuesday at 2 program with Revel Coach, visit us at revelcoach.com. Until next time.